Hey everyone. Well, a federal judge has now ordered the Biden administration to release the emails between the White House press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, Dr. Anthony Fauci, and social media companies. Thanks for joining me live. We have a storm here in Houston, so let me know about my internet connection. It's been a little weird today. This email release is part of a lawsuit to reveal how the government, Facebook and Twitter, have been colluding to censor free speech. By the way, that's a violation of the First Amendment of our Constitution. So the White House now has 21 days to release those emails, according to Fox News. Initial federal emails were already released in this lawsuit, and they are damning. The thumbnail of this video is one of those emails. I will show you more of those emails on my show today. We can look over them ourselves. But the feds have been hiding behind executive privilege, trying to avoid releasing the additional emails from the tip-top bosses in the Department of Justice, Anthony Fauci, Karine Jean-Pierre, those top people. The feds are trying desperately to not release those emails. The emails we're getting so far are horrendous in regards to free speech. Everyone who calls himself a free press journalist should be calling this out viciously. This is the beginning of the end of a free society. We all know this from history. We studied this in journalism school, at least my journalism school. I know I went to one of the best, Newhouse at Syracuse University, but everyone else who went to journalism school, did you not learn about the importance of free sharing of information? And when the government comes in and starts censoring, that is a critically bad sign for the future of your free society. So why are we not hearing a peep from these thousands of journalists across the nation? Okay, and when I was with Fox and first called out this alarming censorship 2 years ago, I was disciplined for doing so and told never talk about that again, stop talking about censorship, which was insanely alarming to me, that realizing that Fox Corp was compromised from the top. You know, the New York bosses, even though I was based in Houston, the New York bosses were telling my bosses to discipline me over standing up for free speech, free press. Stunning. We're going to dive into these emails. Can you guys hear me okay? Thanks so much for tuning in. Okay, so shout out to the sponsor of my coverage. Are you ready for the blackout days? If you're not familiar with it, you should be. The federal regulators with U.S. electricity believe a colossal terrorist attack capable of completely wiping out the power grid and sending us back into a dark age could happen at any moment. They have dubbed this attack Blackout Day. When Blackout Day occurs, steps must be done within 30 minutes. These steps are outlined in this explosive free video. This video guides you step by step instructions on producing your own electricity, whether from water, wind, the sun, or more. Thousands of satisfied customers have more peace of mind knowing they're prepared for Blackout Day thanks to this amazing how-to video. Try, review, and learn to protect against the dark age. Watch the free video by going to the link down in my description, www.darkageprotection.com. This is time sensitive, so hurry, guys. What up, guys? I know, hey, checking your comments. You know, California is already dealing with the dark age. So if you're a Californian, click my link for sure. Okay, you guys. Let's look at some emails. Now, for some background on this. The attorneys general from Missouri and Louisiana sued in federal court, sued the Biden administration for collusion to censor free speech in violation of the First Amendment of our Constitution. They ended up getting some of those emails, quite a few of those emails just the past few weeks from the federal government as this lawsuit progresses. And, you know, I'm thinking some of the most damning emails from the government, if the government is going to commit these kind of shenanigans to violate our own First Amendment, I think that they would not have the top faces of the White House be the people sending those emails. So I don't expect to see as many damning emails from Karine Jean-Pierre and Anthony Fauci as I do from the little guys in the White House. The White House would more likely send out lesser known names to do the extra dirty work. And fortunately, those emails are some of the emails that we are getting. So the Attorney General of Missouri released these emails, and let me show you some of them. Okay, here it is. So this email exchange starts down here. It's kind of hard to read, so we're going to zoom in to the key part. Here it is. So you can see this is between the U.S. Surgeon General's office and Facebook, an email from Facebook to Health and Human Services officials. Dear so-and-so, confidential email, reaching out after what has transpired over the past few days following the publication of the misinformation advisory and culminating today in the president's remarks about us. I know our teams met today to better understand the scope of what the White House expects from us on misinformation going forward. Stunning. So the Facebook admits right here that our teams, the team from Facebook and the team from the White House, met to discuss what the White House expects. The White House expects censorship based on quote unquote misinformation, which is a relative term. This is a clear line about the White House planning out a violation of the First Amendment with the assistance of Facebook. Okay, and this occurred, they're mentioning the president's remarks. They're referring to when Biden accused Facebook of being responsible for murder for allowing anti-needle people to post about information about needles on Facebook. Biden said, hey, Facebook, you're not censoring enough, so we are going to accuse you guys of murder. And so Facebook's like, whoa. They sent this email and said, hey, I thought we were meeting. We were helping you censor White House. Why are you saying mean things about us? So there it is. That right there is Biden violating the First Amendment of our Constitution. Interesting that last week, multiple times in his speech, in his satanic speech with the red background, he talked about Trump voters being a huge threat to the Constitution. Here again is evidence of him actually being a monstrous threat to the Constitution. He just knocked down the First Amendment. It's been revealed now. Okay, let's look at the next email. Here we have an email from Twitter to the CDC. Subject line, request for problem accounts. Twitter says, hi, so-and-so, thank you so much for this. We actioned by labeling or removing the tweets in violation of our rules, warmest so-and-so. So the black lines here were blotted out, I guess, by the court. But here I blotted out the red part because I don't want to get this video removed by triggering YouTube's bots. But you can see there, here are the things that the White House, the CDC wanted Twitter to get rid of, and Twitter saying, hey, CDC, we got rid of your stuff for you. Are you happy? They put this spreadsheet together. CDC sent Twitter this spreadsheet of things that they would like Twitter to delete. Number one, needles are not FDA approved. Number two, fraudulent cures. Do not allow people to share cures that are not the state-run media's rule as the cure. Only what the state-run media allows as the cure is what can get out. Sadly, we do now have state-run media. This is confirmation of that. I am stunned that in 2022 in America, as a journalist, I am witnessing state-run media in this formerly free society. So here it is. The government saying, Twitter, you must get rid of any cures that do not have the CDC stamp of approval. And as we know, there are legitimate cures. If you've actually looked at the studies, looked at the data, that has perhaps been posted on alternative locations, you have seen that this is true, that people are healing in alternative ways to what the CDC says. As we know, the CDC pretty much has one cure, and that is the needle, right? Or things, Paxlovid. That's the new cure. Pfizer's Paxlovid is the only cure along with the needle. Okay. Anyway, bullet point number 3, the data taken out of context in regards to bad reactions to the needle. Yeah, there's a database that started up by the CDC that where people, doctors, nurses, and patients can list their bad reactions. Well, people have been posting, it's public access. You can look this stuff up, and people have been posting what this database is saying. And now the CDC is saying, hey, you're taking that out of context, because it's horrible things that people are learning. Thousands of deaths, thousands of people being crippled. And the CDC now wants Twitter to delete what that database says. Okay. Number 4, infertility. Do not allow people to talk about infertility. That's interesting. What the heck? I'm looking at your comments. Who the F do they think they are? Says Ironwood Workman. What goes up will come down. This is not China. Exactly. I am stunned to be living in a country that commits this kind of censorship, and none of my former media colleagues are saying a word about it. They are complicit in becoming a part of the state-run media. They are complicit in censoring this information themselves. And because as we know, the corporate news censors the same stuff that the social media outlets censored. Now, why are they all in lockstep? It's hard to tell, but now we know why Facebook and Twitter are in lockstep. They're both colluding with the federal government. We haven't learned the details yet fully on the federal government's collusion with corporate news executives at the top, although we did get that leak published by The Blaze when they did a Freedom of Information Act request, which showed how much money the Biden administration sent to every major media corporation, including Fox News and Newsmax, to promote the needle. We'll pay you this much if you guys promote the needle. So that has leaked out. But as far as censoring, not saying a word about certain things, it's not fully leaked yet as to why the corporate news is censoring the same stuff that the social media corporations are censoring. Let's look at another email released in this lawsuit. Thanks so much to attorney generals from Missouri and Louisiana for filing this lawsuit, which forced the discovery process in the lawsuit, forced the federal government to cough up these emails. Here's the next one. Confidential email from Facebook to who.eop.gov, HHS officials. Insights on the pandemic. Dear so-and-so, thank you again for the time the other day. As promised, I'm sending our latest report that includes top-line performing posts for the weeks in May. Report is attached, and myself and the team are, of course, happy to discuss anything with you. Again, Facebook filing a report for the federal government. Why does a so-called private social media company have to send reports to the federal government, proving to the federal government what they are censoring? This is extremely disturbing to read. The email goes on, quote, I also want to highlight a few policy updates we announced yesterday regarding repeat misinformation. The full newsroom post with product mock-ups is available here, but I wanted to call out a few key points. Number 1, we've added more context about pages that repeatedly share false claims. Number 2, we are expanding penalties for individual Facebook accounts that share misinformation. Number 3, we've redesigned notifications when they share content that a fact checker later rates. By the way, fact checkers have been proven to write false articles and make false claims about true information on Facebook. That's right. Fact checkers are the sources of disinformation in some cases, yet Facebook does not care about the truth. They care about being controlled by the federal government. I mean, they could face penalty if they don't get controlled. So here it is, the number one social media platform where people think they are experiencing free speech, free sharing of information, is in fact controlled by the federal government in violation of our own Constitution's First Amendment. The email goes on, quote, "Finally, I wanted to include here the data I mentioned in our call earlier that points to the positive, if not publicly discussed, influence we're having on attitudes towards the needle." Wow. Facebook is filing a report to the federal government, Health and Human Services, proving to them that they are successfully brainwashing Facebook users to feel positive feelings toward the needle. Guys, I'm the one who blotted out the word needle, the V word, because I don't want to be triggered by the bots. They said overall trends in needle acceptance amongst Facebook users are positive. This has increased considerably since January, and racial ethnic disparities have also decreased. You know what that means? Minorities like Black and Hispanic, who have been most hesitant towards the needle, are being brainwashed the most to close that gap. Facebook is successfully brainwashing Black and Hispanic people to get a needle in their arms. Okay, this entire full email is part of a release sent out by the Missouri Attorney General's office, which I have linked down in my description if you want to scroll through all these emails. This is the initial drop. And like I said, the big news today is that the federal judge has said, hey, feds, you guys are still hiding some of the key emails. We know Karine Jean-Pierre sent email. We know Fauci sent emails in regards to the censorship. Show us that dirt. By the way, the Attorney General says he is demanding the FBI emails be released. The FBI sending emails to social media demanding that social media censor things for the FBI. That is something else the DOJ is refusing to release. And attorney generals are trying to get that information, but it doesn't look like the federal judge has demanded the release of that yet. And, you know, this is a good point to note. It is damning and horrifying as these emails are that we're reading in regards to free speech. Chances are the worst, most damning emails are still being hidden. I mean, what's to stop these people from saying, oh, this is all we got. Here are the emails. And nobody needs to know that we deleted certain emails, right? How do you prove that? Okay, so let's look at the next email. It just keeps going. From Facebook to Health and Human Services. Okay, so a couple of emails here. Number one, they admit to regular updates with Health and Human Services. It says here, including this week's updated report here. Look forward to scheduling our next working session. As always, please let us know if you have any questions. So here, Facebook and Health and Human Services have been doing regular working sessions during the pandemic, meeting outside of email to actually verbally discuss how to censor free speech. We don't want the public to know, you know, to be able to freely figure out what's going with this pandemic. We only want the government's narrative. And Facebook is saying, we are here to serve you, Health and Human Services. We are here to serve your narrative and only let your narrative get out on the most powerful platform for free speech in the world. The most powerful platform for free speech in the world is now controlled by the federal government with regular meetings to help craft only a government narrative. This is stunning. The next email says, from Facebook to Health and Human Services, dear so-and-so, thanks again for taking the time to meet earlier today. It's very helpful to take stock after the past week and hear directly from you and your team and to establish our next steps. We talked about the speed at which we are all having to iterate as the pandemic progresses. I wanted to make sure that you saw the steps we took just this past week to adjust policies on what we are removing with respect to misinformation, as well as steps taken to further address the disinfo dozen. Do you guys remember this last summer when the federal government personally targeted a dozen people? Jen Psaki spoke about the disinformation dozen. 12 Americans who are being targeted for their free speech. And here is Facebook's bombshell email admitting to colluding with the government demanding that Facebook censor. Violation of the First Amendment, guys. Anyway, the email goes on, quote, "We removed 17 additional pages, groups, and Instagram accounts tied to the disinfo dozen. So a total of 39 profiles, pages, groups, and IG accounts deleted thus far, resulting in every member of the disinfo dozen having had at least one such entity removed. We are also continuing to make 4 other pages and profiles which have not yet met their removal threshold more difficult to find on the platform. We are expanding the group of false claims that we remove to keep up with recent trends of misinformation that we are seeing." Wow. Proving to the government that they are censoring the people that the government wants them to censor, guys. Let me remind you of Jen Psaki's White House press briefing about this. Here it is.
In terms of actions, Alex, that we have taken, or we're working to take, I should say, from the federal government, we've increased disinformation research and tracking within the Surgeon General's office. We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation. We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation.
There you go. So the White House flags it. Facebook removes it. Facebook meets up with the government to prove that they are removing free speech that the government wants them to remove. This is not free speech anymore. We're not in a free speech society anymore. This is freaking stunning. I've got one more email screenshot here. Confidential email from who.eop.gov. Health and Human Services, they copy Health and Human Services and they send the email to Twitter. So here it is, recurrence. Okay, so here's the email from the government to Twitter. White House staff will be briefed by Twitter on needle misinformation. Twitter to cover trends seen generally around the needle misinformation, the tangible effects seen from recent policy changes, what interventions are currently being implemented in addition to previous policy changes, in the way the White House and our pandemic experts can partner in product work. There you go. Only the government's narrative on needles is allowed. And if you pay attention to alternative media, if you've looked at my uncensored website, ivoryhecker.com, you know that there are a lot of untold stories out there. The extent to which this needle is effective or ineffective or harmful or deadly is very difficult to determine right now due to the censored society that we are in. I know that I keep getting emails and messages from people who have been very much harmed by this needle. Of course, we've heard about, Biden himself had 4 needles and then got sick. Albert Bourla, CEO of the needle company, had 4 needles and got sick. So that shows that the needles don't work. Although now they've crafted the narrative to say, no, they do work. You just have more mild symptoms. But there are other people who've had the needle and died. And the federal narrative is that is very rare if you die after the needle, whether die from the illness or die from some other weird effect. It's extremely rare. That's the federal narrative. And they are working hard with the top conveyors of information to shut down any information that might tell the truth as to how rare it is. is extremely hard right now to find the truth in the censored society. And yet all of my former colleagues in the corporate news are complicit in this censorship. They should be highly ashamed of themselves as people who wanted to go into the free press. Did any of you guys get into this for the right reasons? The primary purpose of journalism, and I'm quoting my journalism school textbook at Syracuse, primary purpose of journalism is to provide people with the information they need to be free and self-governing. If you can't even speak freely, how are you free? And if you can't figure out what the heck is going on because the truth is so censored, controlled strictly by one federal branch of government at the top, then how are you going to be able to get to the truth, to understand the decisions you need to know to keep yourself self-governing, in control of your own life? Does the media care about allowing citizens to be in control of their own lives anymore? And then just an update today from Rochelle Walensky, a CDC director. She is pushing people to get their fall needles, guys. Even a fifth needle at this point. So if it's been 2 months since your fourth needle, she's saying it's time for the next one. And from here on out, here it is from the CDC. From here on out, you are to get a fall needle every year. That is the narrative now being pushed. And they are now comparing it more to the flu and saying you get your flu shot, get your fall needle, the new needle technology. And by the way, they've redesigned the new needle. There are new ingredients in there. You are to trust the ingredients. Government knows best. Government and its big pharma partners knows best. Yes, the government used your tax dollars without representation to buy these questionable needles that we know very little about their ingredients. But never mind being represented, you didn't have to have a choice in whether the federal government spent billions on questionable needles. Just take the needle that the government bought with your tax dollars, and take it every fall now. Okay, so fifth needle's coming right up. That is the update from Rochelle Walensky as she spoke to MSNBC today, talking about the new ingredients. They added ingredients to cover the latest Omicron variant. And to finish this off, I wanted to share a tweet from the great Glenn Greenwald, a real journalist. In all of this, there is a lot of divisiveness from various political factions in America right now, people picking on each other. And I think, a lot of right-wing people are losing sight of who their real enemy is, which, bothers me. I've expressed this on my show before. Like, can you stop posting and complaining about how people dress? Like, that's none of your business how someone dresses. That's not the real enemy. For a right-wing voter, their enemy is not the left-wing voter. Their enemy is the Biden administration, as far as we can tell, who continues to violate our constitutional rights. Okay. Glenn Greenwald tweeted, quote, "Above all, stay focused on who your real enemies are. They're not your neighbors who have been deceived into supporting the wrong party or wrong ideology. They are victims of repression, which is all about maintaining a closed system of propaganda that can't be challenged," he said. Exactly. Your neighbors have been deceived. Help educate them, but don't make them your primary enemy. Okay. Help educate them. Just like on a previous show, I talked about that Christian woman who gave the Satanist a hug and it melted his hardened heart. Okay. A lot of so-called Christians have a lot of enmity towards Satanists, but what if you actually gave a Satanist a hug? What would that do? Turns out she won the Satanist over. He became a Christian because all she sent him was love, not hate. He was not her enemy. There's other very powerful forces at the top who are the primary enemy people might want to be putting their energy towards. Greenwald sent another tweet saying the worst of all, the most repugnant and despicable are those calling themselves journalists while doing the opposite of what that term implies. They serve rather than challenge power. They deceive rather than inform. They demand censorship rather than free and open inquiry. By the way, guys, that is the primary reason I left my dream job in the corporate news. Fox Corp was my dream company. I was right on my way to the path. I had meetings in New York about doing, working my way, doing national news. My future was bright. And as soon as I learned that Fox Corp was pro-censorship, anti-free speech, and was willing to discipline me for standing up for free press, free speech, that's it. That's where I draw the line. And I walked away from my biggest dreams gladly because I was so horrified. So where is your line in the sand? Where are you willing to take a stand and do whatever it takes to stand up for your values? These are really strange times. Don't let yourself become compromised during these times. Checking your comments. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for commenting on my balls. It is the most common comment I get, actually. Girls don't have balls, but sometimes I think boys don't have balls these days either. Where are the real men? Just kidding. There's a few good men out there. Hopefully there are more than I can tell. We all got to grow balls nowadays. Checking your comments. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks for the support. I just dropped a new uncensored video, ivoryhecker.com, on the central bank digital currency. This is very concerning that our federal government and the Federal Reserve Bank are conspiring to create a new digital currency that would do away with cash, where the government could monitor your every money move. When you pay someone cash, there's no way for the government to track that. Same with Bitcoin. Government has a really hard time controlling Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a private digital currency and is very threatening to the federal government. I think is a primary source of the government wanting to create its own digital currency that it can control. So these are concerning. I dropped a new video on this on my uncensored website, ivoryhecker.com. Yeah, it is a bunch of soy boys. A lot of soy boys. A lot of dudes lying to themselves too, thinking they're real men when they're not. Thank you. You said, Ivory, it's a shame more journalists don't have the same moral compass and backbone. Yeah, you have to get really spiritual and serious with yourself and figure out what really matters in life. Does it matter that I have a regular paycheck? Does it matter that I have a prestigious job? Does it matter what other people think of me? A lot of people care so much about what others think of them. And a lot of people live in a lot of fear. So, and, I had an extremely spiritual year in 2019, dropping a lot of my previous identity and getting more to the bare bones of what life is really all about. And that year prepared me. I didn't know what was coming, but because I became more grounded and dropped a lot of fear, I was able to clearly see a line I was not willing to cross. And I hope that more journalists will do that. You guys can reach out to me. A lot of journalists have reached out to me about the issues in their newsrooms and asking advice on doing independent journalism. I am willing to talk to you about what I have learned as an independent journalist. If you guys want to branch out and try that yourselves, I am doing very well as an independent journalist. You guys should try it. So keep your head up if you are a corporate news journalist. I am not your enemy. I'm your friend, and I'm here to help you either break free of the fake news, or if you're within the corporate news beast, I'm here to help and support. If you want to take a stand within the newsroom and remind your boss about the journalism they agreed to do. Remind your boss about how they were going to stand up against propaganda, how they were going to stand up against censorship when they first got into journalism. Kind of jog your boss's memory about the values they initially had. I'm here to support you guys if you are in the corporate news or leaving the corporate news. And that's it. All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.